Welcome to the Anfield Review Pod, guys. I'm Owen James. This is your Liverpool news update. Look, it is the international break. The international break, obviously, still dragging along, banging along, going along, just getting on wires, really. No real football. Yes, of course, there were World Cup qualifiers last night. Games obviously taking place, and some obviously disappointment for the home nations who took part. Look, just quickly go through some of them. Obviously, Republic of Ireland drawing 2-2 with Czech Republic, a former Kameen Kelleher, obviously former Liverpool player involved in that. Italy beating Northern Ireland, Conor Bradley's Northern Ireland 2-0 in there as well. Alexander Isak, Sweden winning 3-1 against Ukraine. Worth noting that one. Italy, Federico Chiesa's Italy winning 2-0 obviously in that Northern Ireland game. Denmark 4-0 winners. Czech Republic winning 4-3 on penalties obviously in that Republic of Ireland game. Turkey beating Romania. Wales losing to Bosnia-Herzegovina as well. So, some games obviously there involving home nations and involving obviously home nations linked to some of our players too. But look, we're going to talk transfers. We're going to talk summer transfer window. Look, it's way ahead. And I know this is all speculation, but look, it's interesting to talk about it nonetheless and get your views, your opinions on these stories. We've got links to a very young, up-and-coming, talented centre-back to add to the collection. It seems Liverpool are collecting young centre-backs. Obviously, all that business in January. We'll talk about that in this video. We'll talk also about a link to a player who nearly came in January. We'll link to him. I'm also going to talk Michael Olise, why that may be a big no-goer for Liverpool this summer, and who may be the alternative to Michael Olise too. We'll talk all the latest. Now, let's start off with an interesting link to a very young, talented, up-and-coming defender, described as one of the best defenders globally, young defenders globally, Luka Vuskovic, who is currently on loan at Hamburg from Tottenham. He is a Tottenham player, and obviously with the crisis that Tottenham are currently going through and chances of being relegated, the chance of them hanging on to their top talent, if there is a relegation there, is very, very slim indeed. And obviously Vuskovic is someone who they could lose out on. What do we know about this young man, Luka Vuskovic? Well, he's only 19 years old. So, look, I mean, it's an interesting link, given the fact we obviously already have teenage defender Giovanni Leone, 20-odd-year-old defender Jeremy Jacquet as well. Another young defender to add to the collection, possibly. Long-term planning appears to be part of this strategy. And obviously Liverpool trying to ensure their back line for the future. Obviously that is to add, of course, to the young players brought in, like Ndai as well, and the Austrian lad whose name escapes me at this moment in time, to Rob Page's under-21 squad as well. He's from Split. He's Croatian. He's 6'4". He's a centre back. He's a right-footed centre back. So it would come into sort of the Ibrahim Konate's space. Obviously, still ongoing uncertainty over the future of Ibrahima Konate. He does have a long-term contract with Tottenham though until 2030. He will return to Tottenham this summer from his loan spell in Hamburg. In terms of his career, Vuskovic, he spent time at Westerlo where he made 36 appearances, scoring 7 goals and 3 assists, 10 goal contributions in 36, not bad for a defender. He's had 20 games on loan, 26 games, on loan for Hamburg, scoring 5 goals and 1 assist. Again, he gets a goal or two. Not too bad goal record. With Hajduk Split, where he came through the youth system, he made 11 appearances for their first team. He also made 15 appearances for their under-19s and played in the Hajduk Split youth system, scoring goals in all those elements. Has yet to play for Tottenham, has played for them in friendlies, but is yet to make his competitive debut for Tottenham. So perhaps he's a little bit insulated against the Tottenham failure mentality that we have with this young man, Luka Vuskovic. That's his name. Like I said, very interesting player. In terms of what he's like as a player, his scouting report, what we know about him. Well, like I said, he's 6'4". He's a towering Croatian centre-back, lauded as a very, very good young talent. He's known for exceptional aerial dominance, physical strength and technical composure on the ball. He is a modern defender capable of playing right or left-sided, which is obviously good news. The flexibility you have there has got to be good for the club. Spurs fans apparently are very excited about him, but apparently he has been scouted by a lot of top clubs, including Liverpool. Look, that aerial dominance, that strength is something that is needed, especially in this modern Premier League. What are his strengths? Well, like I said, physicality and aerial power. Imposing stature allows himself to dominate duels and act as an aerial threat on set pieces. Obviously, coming from the goals that he scored at a number of different clubs, as you've seen in that little sort of sheet, little stat sheet that I showed you a couple of slides ago. Ball playing ability, comfortable bringing the ball out of defence and initiating build-up play. So obviously starting the attacks off, moving the ball out of the back, a bit of pace, a bit of aggression, breaking the lines, all very useful for breaking down the low block and moving the ball quickly up the field, something that Liverpool do struggle with. Has strong long passing ability, often delivering accurate long range diagonal balls. Again, this could be something long term, replacing Virgil van Dijk, obviously, who eventually will have to move on as he advances in years. Game management, strong positional awareness and composure for his age, often appearing mature in high pressure scenarios. So like I said, this is one of the top young European up and coming talents. It appears interesting to me that, again, Liverpool have been linked with a young defender. Like I said, there are a number of young defenders already at the club or coming to the club this summer. Like I said, Giovanni Leone hopefully returning from injury and being back to what we saw previously. And, of course, Jeremy Jacquet once he recovers from that shoulder surgery. But, look, an interesting link nonetheless. And it does appear a future proofing is ongoing at Liverpool Football Club. The other name that has been linked with Liverpool again is Gertrude, the defender who's been on loan at Sunderland this season from Leipzig. Of course, he will return to Leipzig this summer once his loan spell ends. Now, Team Talk are reporting that Liverpool are leading the chase for Letitia Gertrude, the former Feyenoord man. Now, this signing would appear to kind of suggest a continuing role at the club for Arne Slot. This is definitely a Slot player, someone that Arne Slot does like and did want to have back in January. This was a player that whose loan move from Leipzig to Liverpool collapsed at the last minute over complications of him leaving Sunderland and breaking the loan there. Like I said, he's 25 years old. He joined Sunderland on loan from Leipzig last summer and has impressed across several positions. He's a very flexible player who can play in a number of different positions, which, given the injury issues and the squad size that we've got at Liverpool, could be very useful. Right back, centre back, and has even played as a number 6 as well during his time at Sunderland. Like I said, he's adaptable. He's very, he's good on the ground, decent player. Now, his availability, he's reported to be worth around £20 million. So not a massive fee. Sunderland do hold an option on the player, but the final decision does rest with Gertrude, and it's felt that if it was a choice between Liverpool and Sunderland, he would, of course, choose Liverpool. Why would you not want to go to the biggest club and the club where you've actually got a chance of winning something rather than perhaps being mid-table or battling relegation in the future? So another interesting link back to this guy. I'm not sure how I feel about this one. I think it would be a useful, I suppose, flexible player to have at the club, someone who can play in a number of different positions, a bit kind of like a Joe Gomez replacement, if it is that, as it's been talked about, that Joe Gomez will leave this summer, which has certainly been discussed. And I think, look, given Joe's injury history, and look, I love Joe Gomez to bits. I think he's a great defender. Top player. I've always loved Joe Gomez at the club, but with that injury history is something that has held him back for an awful long time. Now, look, Mo Salah has announced that he is leaving Liverpool, and the search for a replacement has to begin immediately. Liverpool do need someone to come in and be the replacement for Mo Salah. And I think, we can talk about Florian Wirtz being the man, we can talk about Hugo Ekitike being the man, or Alexander Isak being the man. And yes, they will all have major roles to play at the club going forward. That's why they were signed. Florian Wirtz been seen as one of the keys to unlocking those low blocks and one of the key players to have. And Ekitike certainly, has proved this season how good he is. And hopefully once Alexander Isak returns to fitness, we'll have a fairly foreboding front three. But the man himself, obviously Mo Salah going, someone needs to come in and be that long-term Salah replacement. Now, the name that lots of fans want and have heard linked with Liverpool is, of course, the former Crystal Palace and present Bayern Munich player Michael Olise. However, it's felt that this may be a very unobtainable target for Liverpool. Why? Because A, there is no release clause in the player's contract. B, Bayern Munich don't want to sell him. And it's felt that any sort of fee would be absolutely astronomical to bring Olise to Liverpool. Now, the talk is that if Bayern Munich were ever to consider a sale, which is highly unlikely, they'd be looking for somewhere in the region of 200 million euro, which is about 175 million pounds, which dwarfs the fees paid for Wirtz and, of course, Alexander Isak. Look, this is the name that has been linked. This is the top name. I mean, because this lad is a very good footballer. You know, he's very Salah-esque in terms of the way he plays. He plays on the right, but cuts in on his left foot. Can go both ways. He's quick. He's direct. Certainly, what we got 9 years ago when we bought Mo Salah. He's had a great season, 16 goals and 27 assists in all competitions this season. 27 assists, what a phenomenal number. I mean, that's 43 goal contributions in all competitions, which is just unbelievable stats. Sport Build are reporting that the fee would be around about 200 million euro, 175 million pounds, which, in the words of Sport Built, is completely unrealistic for Liverpool to be paying this summer. It would certainly supersede by around about 50 million the amount that was paid for Alexander Isak. In fact, Lewis Steele did actually say that Olise would be far from cheap, and therefore that would make him, probably unobtainable. Max Abel, who is the sporting director of Bayern Munich, has even commented on a possible departure for Michael Olise. This is what he said. He said he's an FC Bayern player and has had all the opportunities here that top players could wish for. Michael Olise has a contract with us until 2029 without a release clause, so we are relaxed. So look, unless there is a real push by the player or by the club to want to sell this guy, with the lack of a release clause, literally he would be going nowhere. And like I said, the amount of money it would take to get him from Bayern Munich would be just unbelievable. And given the fact there are so many other needs in this team, I think blowing 175 million pounds on a player, even as good as Olise, would not be a responsible use of money by the club. And certainly, the uncertainty over which European competition that we could be playing in next season also could damage the opportunity to bring Olise to Merseyside. So look, I think that one is very much becoming a unrealistic expectation. There are other clubs looking at him, reportedly Manchester City and Real Madrid, but as much as Olise I think would be the dream successor to Mo Salah, it really is looking very unrealistic given this amount of money that reportedly is wanted by Bayern Munich. I think Liverpool would be very reticent to go that way again. Now, one player who has been linked as a possible alternative to Michael Olise is the young 19-year-old Ivory Coast player who plays currently for RB Leipzig, which is Yan Diamonde. Diamonde is 19, still up and coming, but still very talented, quick, direct, skillful, can go either way. Again, very similar to Olise and Salah in the way that he plays. Obviously not as good as those two. He's got one fewer goal than Michael Olise this season in 10 and has a respectable 6 assists, the joint 9th most in the German top flights, and 16 goal contributions this season. Diamonde can play on the left wing, he can play on the right wing. Like I said, he's very direct, loves to take on his opponent, loves to go past the man, and loves to play with pace. He is fast and aggressive, and that is something that Liverpool have been missing this season. He is seen as being, also someone who loves the club. He talked about the fact that Liverpool is his dad's team and it's his dream and ambition to play for Liverpool. So, look, Diamonde is certainly a very interesting alternative, and this is not the first time his name has been linked with a move to the club. Like I said, I do like Yan Diamonde. He does look a very exciting up-and-coming talent. However, there could be a bit of a spanner put in the works on this one as well. Now, Leipzig are in pole position to qualify for the Champions League next season, and Leipzig have already kind of made it clear that if they do qualify for the Champions League, they won't be looking to shift on any of their top players unless a substantial fee comes in for the player. So look, one to certainly keep an eye on. But Yan Diamonde, certainly a player that I would like to see at Anfield next season. Look, and it seems from the reports that Liverpool are interested in building a very young, attacking, exciting team, going forward. no matter what the situation turns out to be with the manager in the end. Guys, let me know your thoughts on the stories we've covered in this video and these players that have been linked with a move to the club. Thank you for watching the Anfield Review Pod. I'll catch you really soon. Please like, comment, share and subscribe. See you later.